Welcome to the Pontification Pals podcast. I'm Bailey.
And I'm Noah.
And we're the Pontification Pals.
We bring deep biblical pontifications to life with a lighthearted and fun twist, with special guests each week. Real stories, real truths, real fun. Let's get to it. Hey, Chase. Bailey.
Hello there.
Who is
Whoa.
this? Dude, I thought you were over there last time.
Right.
A couple of weeks ago.
Guest, and now I'm taking over
promotion.
The podcast. Right.
Taking over. Chase is gone. He's oofed out of here.
Yeah, he's just gone forever.
It was that 2.5 hour episode that just got us. I'm like, we need this guy on.
Yeah, and
Chase can't. He doesn't have that stamina.
I promise to never do that again.
Hey, it was good. We are excited for today. So
Sure.
There's a reason that Chase isn't here, and it's a good reason. We're excited for what he is doing. And in fact, I'm going to let him talk about it to the others. Now, how could that be possible, you ask? Guess what? I have a phone here that I can call him. Dude, technology these days?
That's magical.
Is insane. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put him on speakerphone.
Sure.
And we're going to get the scoop from Chase here. Welcome to the Pontification Pals podcast. This is Noah.
This is Chase.
How are you, buddy?
Doing good.
Dude.
Got Keenan here with me as well.
Oh, Keenan.
Hey, Keenan.
Hi, how's it going?
It's good, Keenan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm driving.
Well, be safe. Now, where are you guys currently at? What's going on? Because I've got a new co-host next to me right now, and people are wondering, where is Chase? At least I hope they're wondering that.
Yeah.
Well, we're somewhere in Illinois. I see a sign that says War Memorial. I don't know if that's a town or an actual memorial. We just passed a town called Chili Coast.
Whoa.
The coast of Chile? You're in South America,
You're in
Chase?
South America, dude.
St. Francis College of Nursing, exit 92. So that's where we're at.
Okay. I know where St. Francis is, yeah. Very good. That's awesome. So what are you doing? We want to know what it is you're doing, where you're going. This is the Pontification of the Week, and we're calling it conferences. Just simply one word. Mm-hmm. Conferences for Christ, maybe even, because Bailey's going to talk about one, and it helped his walk in Christ, I know. And we're praying that this conference for you encourages your walk in Christ. So tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so what we're currently doing right now is driving. And where we're going is Louisville, Kentucky for Together for the Gospel Conference. And that's a Christian conference. It was specifically made for pastors and people in ministry. But the goal of it is to kind of preserve the true gospel in an age that wants to kind of reject that and accept a bunch of different things that aren't true. So that's kind of where we're headed. And it's a 3-day thing, and we're going to get a lot of books. Which
you're excited about, I'm sure.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Some of the speakers that'll be there, we got John Piper.
Wow.
Alistair Begg.
Ooh.
H.B. Charles Jr., Sinclair Ferguson. So
that's great.
I am jealous for
many
reasons.
Yeah. Now this is the last one too, right?
Yep, this is the last one, so I had to do it.
You had to get in on it, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we are excited for you guys. Now,
thank you.
Are you really excited mostly about the speakers, the books, or the food? Which would be like your top?
I'll put them in order: books, speakers, food.
Good. That's a good order.
I'm glad that food is not on top.
Yeah.
Knowing how much you love food.
So you guys are also meeting up with Pastor Justin and pastoral intern Derek, right? They kind of copped out and flew there because they're older and.
Yeah, they're like really old and they can't really handle the vehicles, I guess. So.
That's great. We're excited to hear when you return some fun stories from you and Keenan's experience. Now, don't let him hold out on you. He is a great dancer. I saw it at VBS. So.
Oh yeah, Keenan.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
A great dancer.
He is.
Yep,
so.
He said yeah.
Yep. So I think you should see. I mean, he might even at worship time might go into it a little bit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hopefully.
Don't let him hold out. But we're excited for you guys. We're praying for you. We hope you have a good time and safe travels. And we're excited that you're able to share just a little bit today on our podcast.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Awesome, brother. Well, take care, and we will see you soon.
Miss you, Chase.
Yeah.
Miss you, Keenan.
Good luck with the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We are excited. And
All
I know
right.
our viewers will be sad not to see your face, but they'll get a double dose of you next time.
Yeah, we'll get that in there.
Awesome, brother. Well, take care.
Yep, you too.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
Isn't that just amazing?
That's awesome that we can bring him in from where he said about 5 different places. A war memorial on the coast of Chile that has a nursing school. I don't know where he's at.
All the way
but,
around the world.
Yeah, I don't know. That's amazing, though. I think they got lost. I don't know if I'd trust Keenan's mapping skill. And maybe Chase is the navigator.
In the military.
Maybe that's why war memorial.
Oh.
I don't know if he was ever stationed on the coast of Chile, but
clicking for me now.
it is. Yeah, it's a trip down memory lane for him. I don't know about the nursing school, but
Well,
you know, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. Did you know that?
I did not know.
I
that.
just didn't have enough patience.
Yep. Well, you do need I guess, a client base.
Oh, okay. Enough of my not very good dad jokes. Let's get to your conference, Bailey.
Sure.
Tell us about it, where it was, what it was. Give us the rundown.
Sure.
Just recently.
Yes. So, a week and a half ago, beginning of April,
Which might be different, I guess, depending on when this episode comes out.
Oh, yeah. True.
The beginning of April.
Yes. Today is the day after Easter, so to give you context.
Easter Monday.
Woo!
He's risen.
He is risen indeed.
Amen. Chase wasn't quite ready for that.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm glad you were. So first week in April, you went to this conference.
So I went to 2 conferences, actually. So the
Wow.
first one I went to was called Thank God for Bitcoin. And this is actually...
T4GB. Dude.
It links up, right?
Thank God. Well, I guess T4G,
Yeah,
TG4B.
Yeah,
Pretty close.
close acronyms, yeah. So this was the first Christian conference for Bitcoin ever.
Wow.
Which...
That's cool to be a part of.
Right. I was so ecstatic. And I had to be, for one thing, going in skeptical, because obviously we're talking about a secular idea.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is not anything holistic or holy, right?
Right.
It's not God.
Yeah.
But how Christians are using it to glorify Christ, right? And so this event was more of like an EP event, just gauging interest in how many Christians wanted to be involved in coming to this conference and also being Bitcoiners. And it was amazing. Oh my days. When I tell you the coolest thing about it, right away, like I said, I went in with skepticism. We sang the same type of music and hymns that we do at our church.
Awesome.
And
That's great.
Is he worthy?
That's a good sign.
Oh yeah. It was amazing. And that right away I was like, okay, so seems
Good
like
start.
Yes, good start. We're coming at it from, it looks like more of like a Reformed Baptist theology, or
Perfect.
Right.
And I mean, not perfect. We're not perfect.
Right, but that was encouraging to me.
Yeah,
and so
that's great.
The first few speakers came up, and I mean, it was awesome. Awesome. I cannot wait for that live stream to be released, because for anybody, like any Christian that's even interested in Bitcoin in any way, I would highly recommend that they watch that live stream whenever that comes out.
And they can just search the name of the conference to find that. Say that one more time again.
Thank God for Bitcoin.
Awesome.
2022.
Great.
And yeah, and apart from that, I forgot to mention this last time on the podcast. A podcast that everyone should listen to, I think, is called Bitcoin in the Bible. And it is 3 guys, and they come from a Reformed ideology as well. And they relate what Bitcoin is, but also coming at it from how to tie in faith with it. And I got to meet one of the guys at the conference.
That's cool.
Yeah, Will. And Will, if you're listening to this, man, you're awesome. Really appreciate.
Give us a shout out.
Yeah. But yeah, I was super encouraged just to be able to talk with him and so many other people networking and everything. So that was Thank God for Bitcoin. Then
And where was this all at again?
Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida.
Yes. Next year, I'm hoping it's Austin, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I really would like that. But after that, the next 3 days were the Bitcoin conference, the main conference that's held every year for Bitcoin enthusiasts, basically. And I can not even explain how incredible of a conference it was. And to see like some people that went to it last year comparing it to this year, it's doubled its size. There were 25,000 people.
Wow.
25,000. And
incredible.
The most encouraging part of all of it, the highlight for me, well, there's two highlights. One at the Thank God for Bitcoin conference. Jimmy Song, who was one of the people that helped put it on, he said, let's go orange pill some no coiners and then Christ pill some Bitcoiners, right, at this conference. And it's really amazing to me how when you're getting together a bunch of people like that who understand each other based on some of the things within Bitcoin, how easy it is to actually talk to people about faith. And I ended up in so many gospel conversations I did not think that I would be in, right? Leading me to places in Miami I did not think that I would end up either. For an example, one place I did not think I'd end up at was a gay bar.
Wow.
And that was not intentional that I went there. I just happened to like go out with some people that I had met, and we were eating food, and then there was a bar right next to it, and we went in there and just hung out for a bit talking. And like it was so cool because I met like 5 people in there who were just so interested in learning about Christ that were also Bitcoiners. But in terms of the Thank God for Bitcoin conference, what was so awesome as well is that there were 2 former atheists that were on a panel. And they've been in Bitcoin for like a decade, right? And they decided after that conference they wanted to get baptized. They had come to Christ about a year ago, and they haven't taken that step to, display that they want to take that, next step for baptism. And yeah, they got baptized on the beach, 2 of them, and it was so awesome. So that overall was the big summary of it. I got a cake thrown in my face by Steve Aoki.
What?
That was another interesting thing that happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
What stays in Miami? What happens in Miami stays in Miami, except for getting a cake thrown in your face.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of ruined my shoes afterwards too.
Oh, you should have made him pay for them.
Nah.
Be like, bruh, my shoes.
So it's my fault. I traveled with a backpack. That was it. So, but yeah, I got this cool little mug too.
Yeah,
Bitcoin
that's awesome. I like it.
2022.
Awesome. Were you ever in fear for your life in Miami at any point?
No. I wasn't myself, and interestingly enough, I stayed in a hostel as well. So I stayed in a room with like 8 other people.
Wow.
And like they do in Europe as well, right. But it's not really common in the United States. And I was a little not so worried, but just interested to see what would happen going into it. But it was fine.
Great.
I mean, nobody seemed to be like sketchy or anything, and it was just me trying to save money mainly.
Sure.
But yeah, overall in Miami, I would say Miami itself, it's really sad to see a lot of the things happening there because it seems to be almost like a Sin City 2.0. And I mean, the amount of drug addicts and just lost people that I saw, it was really sad. But I mean, tried to talk to some people even along the beach and just get into network with people.
Sure.
And at least try and show that there are people that care for them.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the
good deal.
The summarization and highlights of my trip.
Awesome. What a good pontification this week. Conferences are great great thing. Just connecting with people. Yeah, resources, hearing speakers. Give us maybe 2 or 3 kind of bigger name speakers that were at the conference. I know there's a lot.
Yeah, so Jordan Peterson was a huge one at the main conference. I really enjoyed his talk. And Senator Lummis of Wyoming was one of the speakers as well. Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal. And he had a great keynote. I really enjoyed that a lot. But probably my favorite panel, besides the Jack Mallers announcement with Strike, my favorite panel was Bitcoin is Freedom. And it was taking people from Nigeria and Yeonmi Park, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She is a North Korean defect that is now speaking out, of course, against North Korea. But then also another speaker from the Middle East somewhere, I forget where, but just describing the impacts that Bitcoin has had on these people and other places in the world and how important it is for them because they don't have the access to the systems we do here at all. So it's been really impactful and freeing for at least their financial status.
I heard there was one guy there that is almost as muscular and good-looking as I am.
Thank God for Bitcoin. Yeah.
Who was that?
That happened to be Tim Tebow.
I've been compared to him quite often.
Yeah, when Tim Tebow walked on that stage, I was like, this dude is a beast of a man.
I've heard that same thing my whole life.
Like his freaking forearms and biceps and legs. Like I was just like, my days, this dude is ripped.
Unbelievable.
But his speech that he gave was incredible. I mean,
he's a really good speaker.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. And yeah, there were definitely other speakers that I can't think of their names right now.
People can go and look and see some of those.
For sure. Yeah, there were some pastors that were there speaking from Texas.
A whole wide range of ethnicities, genders, fields. Just cool.
Yeah, that was one of the best parts too. Is I met a person from every single continent except is Antarctica a continent?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Except there.
So
yeah,
no penguins were at this conference or Eskimos.
Yeah, so
it'd probably be hard for them to come to Miami. They'd be sweating.
Yeah,
they're used to 20 below and I guess South Dakota in the winter.
Sure.
But good deal.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. I'm excited for just what that you've talked a little bit about it, how that has encouraged you and some insights for you. So that's good. One thing that you were talking about at the very beginning, you said that gave you a clue that it was a good Reformed conference, at least to some degree, was the worship and music.
Yes. And
so to tie in now, segue into our guest today, that's a big thing. No, we're not going to define him by his ability to play music, even though it's my jaw drops every time I hear.
Oh, incredible!
Now he's
incredible.
He's very humble, and sometimes I get angry at him because I'm like, hey, you need to be less humble because you're so good. But it's encouraging to me. But amazing musician. At West Center at our church that we've appreciated 100%. Hearing and learning. And in fact, I'll have him maybe share a little bit and talk about, I've got a comment that I heard the other day that I had to laugh at. Has quickly become a really good and encouraging friend for both of us and others in our church. We got to teach Sunday school together this last semester, which was super fun.
That's awesome.
I really enjoyed that. And so we are excited to have on the podcast, the Pontification Pals podcast today, Victor. Welcome, Victor.
What's up, Victor?
Thank you, guys.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Good. We're glad to have you. Now, the comment I was referring to is my mom was telling me that kind of when you first started playing piano, they were looking for somebody, and she was saying that you had said, I can't really play piano. I'm not very good at piano. And then after the first week, she's like getting angry because she's like, Victor, you can play piano. But it's good. I love it.
I mean, it's part of that feeling where I'd like to sometimes just under promise and over deliver.
Sure.
I just think it puts you in a better shape.
Yeah,
it does.
It definitely did. Yeah. Yeah. So you've played piano, keyboard. What are some of all the instruments you've played for us?
I used to know how to play the harmonica before, but that's something I used to know how to play. I haven't played in a long time, so I'm pretty sure I would have lost like a couple, but I used to know how to play that probably when I was younger. That's like the first thing I actually learned.
Wow.
That's such a cool instrument.
It
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sound is just, it's portable. You could take it anywhere with you.
Right.
It's not as bulky as, guitar, of course.
Yep.
Guitar was actually, this is a funny story I was in college, right? And I went to it was like a Bible conference to on campus. And one of the guys came there. One of the guys invited came over and he played the guitar. I was like, wow, that's incredible. And so I met with him afterwards, I'd love to, know how to play this. But then I wanted to learn how to play the piano because piano was just like
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and then it's like, oh, well, you need to get yourself a guitar first. I'm like, okay. So I went out to get one the following week. And I paid him actually to learn. Apparently, he didn't teach me anything. It was too busy, He's a student as well, but he was just he was in the senior year or something like that. He was really good, but I didn't learn anything from him. And so I'm like, okay, I have to figure out this thing myself. And so that's how I kind of got into that. Yeah, and the reason I went for the guitar was because at the time I couldn't afford a piano, or a keyboard. It was quite pricey. So but yeah, my extended family is really big into music. My main family we're not really that into music. It's just yeah, we sing, but not top tier.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, music has been a big part of my life. It's made me, just meet a lot of people.
Yeah.
Across the board. Just I think about meeting you guys pretty much from music because I came the first time I came to West Center, I had April play piano. I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm stay here.
Oh yeah.
And then
April's amazing.
April is amazing. Yeah, she is. Yeah. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And you bring up a interesting point that I think about sometimes too. When I was younger, I didn't really have the outlets of getting into music or playing instruments. But what I've found really cool is the fact of at least teaching myself has been much better than trying to get lessons from somebody personally, because I have a drive to learn it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's the biggest factor.
Yeah, and it's just really enjoyable. And I mean, I'm not great at anything. I'll humbly say that I'm good at drums. Right?
I'll second.
Out there.
Motion carried.
But I think that's more of a God-given natural talent versus the other instruments that I've had to learn. I really have had to work and learn how to play them, and over time, it's just you learn more music theory, and then
And for all you kids listening right now, Bailey did not say that you have now cause to complain to your parents of taking lessons. Lessons are still good, but having that drive to teach yourself is even better.
Yes, practice is important.
Yes, so you can't quit. Stick with it. So that's great. Well, we're glad to have you on, Victor, today. We've got a few questions just for our audience to get to know you a little bit, and then we're going to get into our topic for today.
Sure. Sweet. Yeah, so I'll start with the first question for you. What is your favorite movie?
That's a two-way kind of answer because you have to consider the fact that I came here when I was in my early 20s. And I would have loved certain kind of movies before I came over here. And once you come here, it's oh, there's something cooler. But overall, just from an American perspective, I don't really have a favorite movie. I think I lean more towards a favorite show.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll be the Ozarks.
Oh. Yes, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but
that's for me just my all time. Okay, I can't,
right?
Yeah. But back home, there's this movie. It's called it's my native dialect. It's just about the political scape of the country and from how why things are the way they are. And it was produced by one of the best cinematographers in Africa. So
wow, that's great.
Yeah. So the movie's been for 20-something years now, but it's still epic.
Sure.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, now this is going to be a really easy one for you. What is, I'll say, a favorite hymn or song that we do at church? Or it doesn't have to be at church. How about give us one for sure that we do at church,
Yeah.
that we sing or play at church, and then if you have another one that we don't do at church, what are a couple of favorite hymns, church songs?
I mean, the first of obviously will be What a Friend We Have in Jesus.
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
And the second will be Victory in Jesus.
Oh yeah,
good.
That's just you know.
And did you play that this past Sunday for Easter?
The Victory
in Jesus, not or like in one of the prelude or afterwards?
No,
or
after,
just was that just
that
before
was the
church?
one after we played.
After, yeah.
I think people had issues like recognizing what song we were playing
Sure.
actually, because I was talking to Ellen and she was like, "What song was that?" I'm like, "Victory in Jesus."
Yeah, I heard it before with the service when you guys were practicing. It was good.
Yeah.
I
No,
remember.
I love that type of
Oh,
gospel music.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's so good. Yeah,
That style.
I listened to Gaither a lot, Gaither
Mhm.
music band. Yeah,
Yep,
the
yep.
Southern Gospel, and that's just where I actually picked up how to play. Like, I listened
That's
to a lot
good.
of their songs.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember the first time that the music team played "What a Friend We Have in Jesus," and Victor, you were playing. I don't know if you were on piano or
I was
keys,
on
maybe.
keys. I remember that was in
And
baptism.
that was like the first time. I'm like, I think we've just become a Southern Baptist church. I want to clap, and we need some amens, and
yes, sir.
it was so good.
Oh,
It was. We needed a little bit of that style.
Yes,
We were missing that, and it was good.
That's one aspect I remember when I had first come to West Center and I saw Victor playing keys, and I had come to West Center before a few years earlier,
Mhm.
right? And nothing against the worship team that Matt was leading at the time. It was great. I
Mhm.
loved it. But yeah, definitely that aspect, like the style of play, especially when you're on keys or piano, it is just energetic.
It
and
is.
amazing. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
And yeah, it's good. It praises God.
Mhm.
I just love. You guys are both very musically gifted. I am not, but I very much so love music. I mean, I listen to tons of music, and
Mhm.
again, yeah, like Bailey, you said that style, that kind of gospel style. I love that, and so I mean, I just enjoy getting to worship and being a someone who benefits from you guys playing, others playing. And it's just amazing how that can set the mood for your day. Like if you're listening to some music before work, or it can end your day well. It can pick up your day if things are not going well, and it can lead us right into worship, into the sermon. I mean, it's super powerful.
100%.
And there's worship in heaven. I mean, Revelation is full of angels and elders and saints worshiping and praising God. So
Right.
I can't imagine how much better it's going to be in heaven, as good as it is some days here on earth.
Yeah, and I mean, just like Justin said at church yesterday, like what we have here right now is just a little glimpse.
Isn't
little
that
glimpse.
crazy?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to like conceptualize. Like, okay, if this is a little glimpse, how big would that be?
Right.
And a way I've been able to conceptualize things like this over the years is just like looking at microscopic stuff. Like you can't see these things with your eyes, but they exist. And so I look at humans as we're at that level where we can it's really tiny, minute,
Right.
But just look at how compare that minute thing to like an airplane. Just the magnitude of
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a
good.
cool way to think about it.
It is.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, let's keep her going.
Yeah. So the next question we got for you is, what is your favorite book in general?
Book in general. So this is the funny thing. Over the years I'm not like really a big reader of like say Christian books or fiction.
Sure.
I'm more like a science book kind of person.
Yeah.
I just love those more. I don't know.
Interested in the science stuff.
Because I
good.
for like say fiction books, just Christian books, I tend to like forget a lot of like the details,
Yeah.
and just kind of like
I hear you.
overall
Right.
view. But if I was to say a Christian book, I can't remember the title, but it was a C.S. Lewis book I was given to like in my former church. But I cannot remember the title. But just some of the salient points there, just kind of stuck out with me. But I can't actually remember the title.
Mere
now.
Christianity by chance?
What do you,
different
no,
one?
it's not.
Not that
that's the funny thing. Like when someone says
Yeah.
the title, like I know what it is,
Right.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
it's
can't.
okay.
I can't.
C.S.
like,
Lewis has a lot of books,
He does.
and they're all
Yeah.
good.
But like on other skill, some of the books I love are just like chemistry books, textbooks.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love chemistry. It's so fascinating.
It is really fascinating. I really love chemistry a lot. So yeah.
I guess I'll differ with you guys on that one.
If
I took
if
chemistry in
wasn't-
high school.
If I wasn't in computer science or electrical engineering, I would have done chemical engineering, 100%.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Victor. A favorite food?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Good.
Rice.
Rice.
Yeah.
Very
Rice.
good.
Oh,
Rice
rice is good.
That's awesome.
It could be Mexican. It could be, just
Yeah.
Chinese.
Brown rice, white
You know,
rice.
Yeah.
Funny story, real quick. Just the other day, I was talking to my family about this upcoming Rise Fest that's in Iowa. It's kind of like a outdoor music festival thing, and I was asking them if they'd want to go or whatever. My mom's like, "Go to Rice Fest?" She's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "No, not Rice Fest. Rise Fest."
The lice.
Sounds terrible.
Oh, yeah.
So that's funny.
That's funny.
Okay, next one.
Yeah, sure. The next question we got is what has been your favorite vacation, or what vacation are you looking forward to most?
Okay. Well, those are actually two questions now, two separate questions.
Yes,
so
yeah.
they could be the same, but my favorite vacation, well, I wouldn't really consider vacation, but it's just when I worked at camp, which is more like a vacation spot, and that did a number of things in me, and first of all was just letting me, it just kind of just absorbed, I was able to absorb the culture in me, like the American culture in me, like was able to like learn a lot,
Right.
be with people that just like at their worst and at their best. And it was actually the first time I actually interacted with kids, and it's a different experience, and that just kind of it really shaped me from there, and one of the things I'm looking forward to again in life is like probably when I'm older, I just like want to retire to like like a campsite of some sort, just the lakes, lakes, very just the scenery,
Nature and
enjoy God's creation.
yeah, just that quiet, whatever. So
Sure.
those are. I mean, I'm not gonna say I went to I did go to New York, but that was like for vacation still. But I'd rather still take
Right.
Yeah.
over.
I'd much rather go to nature than New
Yeah,
York.
yeah.
Personally.
Same.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
cities are not my
a lot of big cities, they seem to be depressing.
Yeah, and someone had told me
lots of sin.
the last time I went to
Sadly.
Iowa, I rented a car, and when I went to return the car at Enterprise, the guy that took me back over to where I was staying said, you should probably check out Yellowstone. I'm like, oh, I know someone who went to Yellowstone.
Yes.
so
Yeah,
I might probably check that out sometime.
Yellowstone's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go there too. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Okay, Victor, we have a couple of random questions for you. Now, to
Randomization.
preface my random question, and then Bailey will ask his. So for the last, about a year, you had been living with the Matarices, Jimmy and
Yeah.
Casey, right? And I remember when me and Jimmy came down to help you move some stuff down to their place or whatever. But the question I have for you is, do you have in your mind, can you think of a funny story, specifically with Jimmy, because I know he's kind of funny, a specific funny moment with the Matarices that you can think of to share?
Oh, wow, we've had a lot of great moments. Let's see here. Well, a funny one would be really funny one. I think would be December 25th. We went over to Packer, with to visit Casey's family, and Jimmy was wearing this kind of weird attire. Like he had like a regular clothes on, and then like he had like a Christmas clothes on. It was just kind of it just stood out differently. And when we got there, we was just laughing, and he wanted to take a picture with everybody. And I was like, "Get away from me!" Yeah. So
That's
that was when I saw him like wear that out, I'm like, "Are you serious?"
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so the question I have for you is, what was the most interesting thing or shock for you when you first came to America versus your culture?
Culture shock would be Well, of course, when I first came, I was just amazed about just all the orderliness that's here. Like just how things are structured. You don't get to see that in parts of the world. Just
Right.
like, the structure. But some of the things is like if you go to people's house here, like you have to tell them like, oh, like arrange. I'm gonna come visit you like next. You tell them a couple
Yeah.
days ahead. my country, like people just show up at your door, like I'm here, like you.
People freak out if you do that here.
Yeah, that's it. So it's like, whoa, that's so much different.
Yeah, very scheduled.
Yeah, kind of like
which we could probably stand to do a little bit less of.
Yeah,
being open to people. Just
I agree.
Yeah, and also the part of for example, if you have a kid and you could live with your parents for like a long time. It's not like no one's like gonna say to get out, like leave the house like when you're 18 or something. Or it's a hard thing for me to hear like a parent like loaning the kid money. My country, like, oh, I'm gonna loan you money to do this. Like no one ever does that where I come from. It's like, oh, I'm gonna give my child this money. It's like she's my seed, and they could have that. So that's one thing that kind of stood out to me. Which like, people could actually loan your kids money here.
Yes.
So like like with college, for example. Yeah. Like a lot of Nigerians you meet here that have been here for a while, like my sponsors' kids, like one of them like went to University of Michigan, and I think the others were like went to British Columbia in Canada, and they paid out of pocket for all the kids.
Wow.
So I mean, I think because of the income they make, they pass like where they could like qualify for certain benefits, so they paid out of pocket, and they don't expect the kids to pay back.
Wow.
So it's that kind of, and that's really coming with a lot of, that's really coming with like a lot of like Nigerian families. Like, you just check it's your kid, you check care of them.
Right.
As opposed to like,
that's cool.
I'm loaning you money for, So.
Yeah. And that's great. I'm glad you asked that because that flows right in. Good segue into our topic today, which the title of the episode, as you see, is The Culture of Christ, Foreigners of Faith. So as Victor talks, he's got some great things we're excited to listen to today. And we're going to kind of cap that off with how we can have a guy from Georgia, a guy from Madison, South Dakota his whole life, and a guy from Nigeria sitting here because the culture of Christ. And I think that's probably, we have some common interests, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
For sure, which is why we've grown to be friends. But the biggest one is Christ, which has brought us together. And then how we are all foreigners of faith, not foreigners to faith. At one point we were, but and we'll talk about some verses at the end of the podcast episode here, but just how we are foreigners on this earth. This is not our home, and we get to look forward to heaven one day. So that's kind of our topic title, and I know Victor is excited, and he's going to share a little bit about just his growing up, coming to the U.S., what brought him here, some of those things. So, Victor, if you would just mind starting with kind of that summary of just growing up, moving to America, what it was like growing up with your family, kind of faith throughout that, kind of just incorporate and weave your faith throughout the whole talk today. But
so the biggest thing for start off would be that I realized largely that Christianity or faith as aware now is largely cultural as well. So the way you practice Christianity in a place like my country is a little bit different from what you practice here. There's some intersection, but and for example, growing up for me, I would read the Bible every day, twice a day. That's growing up, I would have read the Bible like at least 3 or 4 times, like the entire Bible.
So, that's awesome.
That's really good.
So what we do is we would read New Testament in the morning. It says like look up to Jesus or whatever, and then you read it's like a psalm, like the Old Testament when you come back from work, like oh praise be to God for what a wonderful day and stuff like that. So we do that every day. It becomes just like probably like a second it's just what you do. And now that could easily turn to like just a tradition as opposed to like benefiting from and at some point that actually happened to me because I was like, what's the point of this thing we do every day? And my parents wouldn't even like, no, you just have to wake up, whoever's like in the house, you'll have to come to the living room and we do that. That's that. But that was kind of helpful as well. You just can't take away the good away from that. It's really helpful because that kind of solidify my my interest now in just faith, the journey of faith. Now, not necessarily my level of involvement, but just like I have like I'm at the point where I'm actually interested in it. I can't really say I was really into it, but I have this level of interest that just keeps me going, right? And I got baptized 2012. So when I was in college, that was the first time I got baptized, and just really wanted to know more about transitioning from that traditional Christianity to like getting to actually know Christ. That part. And ever since then, it's been like ups and downs, but for most part, God has been really, really faithful and then coming. And this is what happens is when a lot of times you see a lot of international kids. They were Christians back home, and they come here. They don't go to church. A lot of them don't go to church.
Interesting.
Yeah, and when I was at Brookings, we had over like 20-something Nigerians, and there were only 3 of us that were consistent churchgoers. Now the Bible tells you just don't be a churchgoer, but sometimes it's really important to be. That straps you on. Just keeps you in that.
Right.
Just kind of drags you along. You can figure out your way but you're still like on that pathway.
Sure.
Yeah. That's one thing I kind of noticed a lot. So I always
do you think that is because they've gotten into this just routineness of what they've grown up with, and then they come over here, and for them, they may still continue the routines of, like, say, reading your Bible, daily, twice a day, or even more than that. But do you think it may be a feeling that they don't need to go to church, or like why do you think that is mainly?
That's a really difficult one, honestly, because I've never been really able to figure out, why they, if they were with parents, and whenever like they talk to your parents are like, "Are you going to church?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to church," and they don't. So I think it's the way I like to think about it is just the part where you have like 2 things, just fighting within you,
Sure.
and one tends to just overcome the other all the time. Like they pardon the world, and the world just tends to overcome.
Yeah. And I think you're going to get into this later, but I think it may be also possibly that cultural barrier.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. That's a big
it's
one
just
too.
so different.
Right.
And
they may feel like they're outside, you know what I mean?
Especially you come to South Dakota, very much different than
Yeah.
And part of it
true.
too is
I like that.
that's not something that's totally uncommon in any culture, because you see in our culture, I mean, I've even watched in our own church, you see, students grow up that have gone to the church their whole life, and then they go off to college, and now it has to be your own decision because your parents aren't, you're coming to church.
You, yeah.
So, yeah, and so you see college students fall away from the faith, whether it be right away at college or, even, noticing, and there's multiple reasons, but you notice, typically that first week in the fall when college starts, you see a pretty big population of college students, and then usually there's a few that don't, keep coming. And I'm not saying it's because they aren't a Christian or they don't have faith. Maybe they just are checking out churches and they found a different one, which is great. But sometimes I think it is because, mom and dad said I need to go, and so I'm doing it. But then they want sleep. They, there's just other things to do. It's kind of your control of your own life, and you need to make it a priority.
Yes, managing time is such a struggle for so many young adults in America. At least from what I have seen, and I've struggled with it myself, 100%.
Yep.
And many adults do still.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it's especially when you're loaded with homework and.
Well, and as you kind of referenced earlier, Justin, preached on Easter Sunday from Revelation, and he said one thing we don't have to fear anymore in the new heavens and new earth is time. We don't have that burden of, having to be places or running out of time or having too little time going too fast, too slow, things like that, which that was really comforting because that time is a huge thing.
Yes.
Because I get overwhelmed a lot by how much things there is that I could do, how many things I could read, how many podcasts I could listen to. I could get into trying to learn more about Bitcoin, like with the podcast, especially hearing
So
different
much
people's
work.
things.
Yes.
Like, trying to read some more about like adoption stuff. I just read a book about adoption that Casey had recommended, which was great. Just all different things, books that Chase has recommended and people he's gotten into. It's like there's so many things I could do,
It's overwhelming.
and there's not enough time.
Right.
So that was just great to think that we'll have infinite amount of time to learn from Christ himself, from God himself, and with other people to worship with one another. So I think that's just really cool. And just thinking how that in some ways goes across cultures, how if you grow up doing something and then leave your family, there's a tendency for people to quit doing that for whatever reason. But God has been faithful in all 3 of our lives that
Sure he has.
we're still here. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. So would you be able to tell us just a little bit about, so that was kind of the faith growing up, but just a little bit about growing up and then why it is you came to America or how that kind of occurred, things like that?
This is a really in parts sad story and sometimes good as well. So I never would have imagined that I would come to America. Like, it was not in my plan.
You didn't grow up thinking, I want to go to Madison, South Dakota.
No, that's even like streamlining it now. It's like America as a whole. Like,
What's a South Dakota?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know about South Dakota once I started searching.
There's people in America that don't know about South
Oh,
Dakota.
trust me, I met people like
I know.
that.
It's
Yeah.
sad, to be
Yeah.
honest.
They always like say it's in North Dakota. No, South Dakota.
Right.
not North
The better Dakota.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And even Chase has been quoted on the podcast that South Dakota is way more than Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
It's a great place and great faces.
Mm-hmm. No
Mhm.
state taxes.
That's a big that's a big deal.
State of the states.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, I was in college. I was studying biochemistry in college, and there was this thing that was actually going on. There was like a competition in the U.S. It was Geniri. It's a Geniri, and so I put in like an application, and I was selected. We're gonna select 7 people from Africa, and I was selected. And then I needed like just school information, like letter from my HOD and stuff like that at the department. And if there's something you know about like African countries, the leaders are just like God. They're like mini gods in your own space, you know.
Yes.
And so I'd read an email to the guy like, I have this. If you want to sign up on stuff like this, he's like, yeah, good deal. That's awesome. Come to my office, this particular time. And I went to the office and he wasn't there. I sent him I called him, wasn't picking up his call. The secretary was like, he's not around. He's gonna, just back and forth.
Mm.
And I hadn't seen it on time because think about it. I'm coming from a place where the access to the internet is not like all the time. Sometimes you have to literally like switch off your data just to save because you pay for this thing. It's quite pricey. Yeah. And so I like sent the email about 8 days to when it was gonna they told me, well, if you don't send this particular details in the next 7 days, they're gonna give it to the next eligible person.
Mm.
And so I wasn't able to get all that thing together, but then that and then I'm like, I'm gonna leave this place. It's just so funny the way I thought about that. I'm gonna leave this place. Like, this is never disappointed my idea, to like further myself. And then, mind you, my dad had passed at this time. And if my dad was still alive, that's the funny thing. My dad was still alive. There was no way I would have done that. I just like left the school. And so I packed my stuff and I left the school. And I said I was gonna move to another country to go to school. It was gonna be like a better country. And I had a lot of family in the UK. I just didn't want to go to the UK because I felt like I was just trying to move away from family for a little bit. And then I started looking up Canada and the United States. And then I was looking up opportunities, what countries have better opportunities just overall. And it was the United States. It just stood out, way above any other country.
Right.
Now, okay, cool. Now I have a country in mind. Where am I going to in that country? Now you have to factor in like the cost of education, cost of living, and all this kind of stuff. But one thing else that I just really wanted, I just wanted to come experience the cold weather, just
Bless your heart.
Yeah, just
Because
snow.
Nigeria is on
tropical.
the equator. Right?
Yeah, it's really hot.
Yeah.
It's like 90 something. I'm fortunate to stay in a city where it's like 78 usually. But it could go as high as 90 something. But yeah, it's really hot. There are places that's like 110. Like if you go to the northern part. And so, like, I'm done with this hot weather, And I don't like the sun. This is something Case actually knows. I don't like the sun at all. Like, I like to just go to a shade. I don't like the sun.
Yeah,
sure.
So, and then I started looking up colder places, and it was, the Midwest. And that's actually when I first heard about the Midwest. I don't know, like, what the Midwest was. And that's another thing in America. Like, people don't understand America, that you have people that are coming from an entirely different place. Like, they don't know nothing about what you have going on here. It's what's apart.
Right.
Like the movie stars. I don't know your movie stars because I don't watch your movie.
Yeah, right.
I don't know who your president is. Maybe because it's popular, but that's about it.
And I mean, same thing for us to other countries.
Yeah. Stuff like that. And then it was Montana and South Dakota and Minnesota. And then I applied to. I was looking at the tuition as well. There's a factor that I considered, and so it came down to South Dakota State University and Montana State.
Sure.
For cellular biology. Cell engineering, cellular biology in Montana State, yeah. But Montana State University at then was, like, tuition was like 38,000. It was like almost twice. Well, not but about twice South Dakota State University. And then I went to South Dakota State University. So, and God has been good all the way, because when I was going to come here, the money I was banking on, spending was my dad's gratuity, because my dad just passed away.
Sure.
And the gratuity was like around $55,000. I was like, this could, probably push me 2-3 years or whatever. But country's a little messed up. Things don't come as planned. And so I was here expecting the money to come 6 months later, and it never came until today.
Right.
And that's how God had brought me to meet somebody else who, took care of that.
Right.
But just and I remember the first time I kind of saw snow. I think it was 2017 or 16. It was November.
Mm-hmm.
It was November 17. It was November, I think like November 8th, because I wrote down somewhere like, oh yeah, I got this. I
wake up letter date.
Yeah, I looked up the window and that was snow. I'm like, whoa, yeah, I made it.
In Victor's obituary, it's gonna give dates his birth, the day he first saw snow.
Yeah.
What are the highlights?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big deal.
It is.
Like,
it is a big deal.
It's amazing to see. I mean, God's nature that He's created, and seeing
And
snow for the first.
It's a beautiful picture of, like it's talked about in the Bible. He'll make our hearts, He'll remove our sin, and it will be white as snow, as pure as snow.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful when the snow is just coming down, and you look out and it's just white. There's nothing no cars have driven, no animals have walked yet. It's just literally covers all the impurities. Now with Christ, He removes the impurities all the way to the heart. If the snow melts, the dirt and all that is still there. But it's just a beautiful picture,
Yeah.
And that is, it's hard for me to think because I've always had snow and stuff. But, to think about that first time of experience.
And funny story. So I was flying from my country to Saudi Arabia, and then from Saudi to O'Hare, Chicago, and from Chicago to Sioux Falls. And so when I got to Chicago, I was going to take another flight to Sioux Falls. And at the time, I didn't know how to pronounce Sioux Falls, and I thought it was Sioux Falls.
Sioux, yeah.
So then when I was looking at I was trying to hack somebody because I'd been to an airport, but not that magnitude, not that size. It was smaller airports in my country. And so I told one of the attendants that I'm going to Sioux Falls, and she laughed away. She's like, "Where did you say?" Sioux Falls. Can I write it down? She's like, "No, if you see it on the screen, you know it." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it. That one." Oh, it's called Sioux Falls. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't fault you for that at all because that's a Native American word,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know so I didn't even know what natives. I just so it looked like a word that kind of looked like. Add English letters in it. Yeah. I think let's just try and pronounce it.
I get it.
Yeah. So that was my first encounter with a culture shock. Like, oh, okay, straighten up, but
that's awesome. So now, did you learn English growing up?
We were colonized by the British people, British folks, right?
The British.
Yeah, British. Yeah. So
I don't know if that's how it's
probably not.
But so. Like a dictionary, we use like Oxford Dictionary, which is so we speak, but not as good as you'd expect. I don't
speak it as good as anyone would expect.
I just think I'm somewhat fortunate because not a lot of Nigerians don't sound like me or wouldn't sound like me, even like the ones that are here.
Right.
My parents are more my dad's very educated dude. School in the UK, so I was like, you gotta stick to your articles and nouns and pronouns, so that kind of helped me just get along, But it was bilingual. We spoke my native dialect and English back home. So that was how I learned, But that's the other point where the fact you're learning in English you learn the language doesn't mean you could
totally different.
Like I said in that thing where there's a level of social intelligence that comes up with just
being here.
Yeah, just being here, like a 10-year-old
in different parts of the country.
Beat me to that. Yeah,
yes,
of United States. Is different.
So those are things I had to learn on my own. I'm just so right now I consider myself as a baby. Like in the culture.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. But
it's really interesting and cool, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm sure that learning just communication was a big thing when you first came.
Yeah, it was because it was like, okay, I'm speaking English, but you can't really understand certain words, enunciation, the way I pronounce certain things is like, oh, what's that? What do you mean? Okay, and I try to re-say it. And this is a really dumb. I was going to, it was October, I was going to open a bank account in Wells Fargo, right?
Right.
It was in Brookings. And there's Wells Fargo is on the intersection of Main and 6th. So I was at the stop sign, just the pedestrian walk. And there was somebody too about the side of man. And I was like, how you feeling, bud? And I'm like, good. Where you from? I was like, Nigeria. It's like, cool. What are you doing here? I go to school. was like, it must be really cold for you. I'm like, yeah, it is. It is. It is kind of cold. And then I said something along the lines that I wish I was in, I wish I was in the South, like Chicago. And it's like, I don't think Chicago's the South. Very politely. I mean, I would consider Chicago the South.
Yeah,
like that.
right. Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I went to look up, like, where's Chicago?
It's like east.
Yeah, it's in the Midwest.
There is some things in the United States north of Chicago, but
Yeah,
for the most part, nothing.
Yeah.
that was like
so
the time
funny.
the day I learned, like, where the South was, what
Yeah.
states were in the Midwest.
Atlantic.
Geography.
Yeah, the East Coast, the West
Yeah.
Coast. That was that day. This was in October. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Another red letter day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of like the challenge as well. It just makes you better. Just because if you're gonna live in a place for a while, you gotta just absorb the culture. It's just what it is. It makes you better.
I agree. Yeah.
So
Mm.
makes you better overall. And then I found a church, in Brookings.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a class with a guy. God, he has an Italian name. Can't remember, but we had like a CS class together, and he was like, "Are you a Christian?" I'm like, "Yeah." "You want to come to church?" "What church?" There's a church in town. I'm gonna pick you on Sunday." "Okay, what's the name?" "Bethel Baptist."
Mm.
And then he came to the dorm to pick me up. And yeah, it was nice.
That's
and,
great.
That's why I kind of started meeting people and whatnot.
Point one for the Italians.
Right? Oh, there's something about those Italians I speak off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met
They're pretty family oriented.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense now. Look at it.
Yeah, I met a Italian that connected close with in Miami.
Really?
Yeah, his
That's
name is
awesome.
Giancarlo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's name is
heroic.
actually John.
Oh, really?
John, I can't remember his last name though. John something. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
John Sachs. I think it's John Sachs.
Huh.
Yeah.
Sounds Italian. Yeah.
Yeah.
John Sachs. I know he was because we talked about
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like American Italian, not like Italian.
Right.
Right.
American Italian. Since you're like, I'm Italian. Wait, no, you're not.
Yeah. Right. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little journey. It's a little journey I countered.
Good.
Yeah. So, I guess another thing we wanted to go over with you is just the social cultural references and conversations in school.
Yeah,
and,
that's the biggest one. That's the biggest
Yeah.
hurdle to cross.
Sure.
And I make reference to, and I take a descriptive math class where one of the questions was just, baseball. It was a baseball question, like, respirability, and I have no clue what baseball was. And it was an assignment. He's like, how am I going to figure this out? Now I have to, like, go to YouTube
You have to
and
learn
the
a whole
game.
sport just to solve math.
Victor's like, what is this?
Yeah.
I've heard people complain about discrete math, but I didn't know it was because you had to learn a whole sport. He's in his room just studying baseball games. And
I actually looked up YouTube video. I can still understand what, I mean, like, I know what they I don't know, like, I don't know what they do. I just like know, like, you have people running around.
Why are these people beating balls with sticks?
Yeah. And that was just, that's just like with a class, for example. But there was just like a lot of, say just references people make, like a plethora of those that you have no clue what they were saying.
Yeah.
I was talking to a girl 2 or 3 years back. I was just saying something funny, and she was making reference to, I think, Harry Potter. And I've never seen Harry Potter. I've never read a Harry Potter book. I mean, I know it exists, but it's not my forte. I don't want to go read about it.
Yep.
And she thought I was making reference to that. And she said, and she was replying back in that context, and like, I have no clue what you're saying. You see, and this could be like things that were just in people's conversations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I realized just for you to just, there's just a lot to know, to learn, that has really been a lot of stumbling block for me, I guess, just,
Yeah,
Well, I
I
noticed-
mean, even me coming up from Atlanta to here,
Yeah.
I make references that people don't understand. And like from Atlanta and saying words, like certain words that we use or certain references like that people know around Atlanta. And of course, it's not as hard for me to adjust or articulate that to another American, but for sure, if I were to go to like El Salvador or something, right? And they're talking about, local things.
Yeah.
It would be a stumbling block.
Yeah, and that kind of makes you kind of withdraw sometimes from just, trying to converse with people. Like,
Right.
if I'm gonna spend half the time trying to debug what I'm saying,
Yeah.
I might just stay put. You know.
Yeah. Well, and even
yeah.
just cultural conversations, like, as you were talking about, like, you don't know our actors, you don't know our movies, or those kind of things when you first come, because you know. And we do that a ton, just making like movie lines, like a ton of our jokes are just references to things in our culture, not just something that's funny that's everybody's going to understand. So while you understand, people think, oh, well, they understand English, so they're good, but there's a whole nother level of just the cultural references that even though you understand English, you might not have a clue what somebody just said.
Like Easter egg, I know what that was. Like what is it about? Things like that.
Yeah,
sure.
So,
and especially, see, that's why I love soccer so much, because it's an international sport and it's played among, vast amount of different countries. It's one of the most popular sports in the world.
It is,
right?
Yeah.
And I love that I'm able to connect with people on that level, talking about soccer or playing soccer with them.
Sure.
And because I can probably go to any country in the world and there's definitely going to be people playing soccer, versus baseball.
Football.
Right? Yeah, football. And versus baseball, right? That's mainly
to the
American and more so now Japanese thing, but and Latin American.
Yep.
But it's just, I love soccer for that degree because it's something that you can connect with
all
everybody.
people on. And I remember my first time going to a SUSU game. I was against NDSU, and
Battle of the Dakotas.
It was for yeah, I agree. I was invited by, I said, damn, a student, like I should be able to go, right? But I didn't intend to go. But one of the guys, I used to go to like a Bible group. It's called Equip back in SU State. And then a bunch of the guys were going and like, you should come along and watch, And then I went and I didn't understand what was going on in the entire game. It was almost 3.5 hours long, and they really held the ball for,
Yeah.
So I think the biggest issue I had was just I like the sprint nature of soccer where you just keep going.
It's just
as opposed to
people argue that soccer's slow. I'm
like,
dude, baseball is slow.
Right. Yeah. Right. They think just because it might be like 1-0 or 2-1 they think in the score, just because football is 42 to 35.
Yeah. Basketball,
just think of the hours that you spend watching commercial breaks, like if you're watching on TV or something for baseball and football. And that's why I've even gotten into like hockey a little bit too, because like soccer, it's a very kind of Midwest, Northern Canada type sport, but it's very quick paced, continual going,
Right. Yeah, I love the continuity of those sports.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Good. So this kind of lends well into, Victor, a little bit of how that maybe made you feel isolated, or some worries, good and bad things that kind of came along with just coming, the culture shock. Would you be able to talk about some of those a little bit?
So it's now a question of, okay, should I try to like submerge myself in this, try to be part of the whole, or just distance myself? And there's all those like times when you do that, but for the most part, you want to be, you want to submerge yourself in the culture, and that's where things like church going, being part of a community kind of stands out, because I could tell you this, right? I could, for example, say in college, you could have people like you'd have classes with from your first year to your fourth year, and they never knew your name. It's very common with internationals, and it could be on the part like they're not interested, or they're scared, or just don't know how to communicate with you. It could be for a variety of reasons, and I'm not really concerned to know why those reasons are. But things like church, because church is more like a neutral ground. We're like, okay, let's just put our arms down. No, let's so that's one advantage. And I'm blessed to have just taken the initiative to just continually just keep going, as opposed to where just like I don't really feel welcomed here, because I could tell this, right? I could say that my previous church in Brookings, I could see, like I've said this a lot of times, like I could see easily why like internationals wouldn't go to that church. It's just like it's not really welcoming, except like you spent like a year or so, as opposed to when I came to West Center, where the first time I just felt I felt the warm welcome, just people,
that culture of Christ.
Yeah. And it's a thing where if you want to like really bridge. There's gotta be a bridge for people of different cultures. And sometimes it's not always like a level playing field. Someone's got to do more work than another person. And usually the person that you should do more work is just the person that has like the upper edge. The person has a better edge. And in this case, like people like I meet here, because you got to think about me coming from a country that is, poorer than the United States. Like I make references a lot to, Maslow. God, what's it called now? That's Strutter, Maslow. Yeah.
Yep.
So where like the base is just like, what you just need is physiological needs, what you need to survive. And nations like this, United States and advanced country have passed that stage.
Right. Yeah.
And so you're like in a self-awareness stage now where you talk about how I feel, what I feel like and stuff like that. And we're still dealing with, just
the
basic
reality.
Yeah. Just the basic things we need to get by in life, water, electricity, stuff like that. So there's gonna be a shift in how you see things. And so somebody that's at the upper strata has got to be the person doing most of like the welcoming. Like, okay, you're welcome and stuff like that. And that's just usually how things would work. If you really want to have a balanced. But on the other person's hand is like my hand is having the leap of faith to just go into that. Like I could walk into any circle dish today and not be scared of being judged.
Right.
I mean, it's just, not everyone's going to be comfortable with me, of course. That's a reality. But
it's sad.
Yeah, it is. But I'm positively reinforcing myself.
Right.
To just, not be, because there's a lot of negative reinforcement that could just come from me just, sounding different, looking different, not getting, but God has been good. I've been able to just,
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this before as well, and that's one thing that I really respect from you a lot is you look at the positives. You don't let it bring you down. And not that all international students or international people, at least coming to America, like that I've seen, they don't all do that. They don't all have negative reinforcement. But one thing I really respect, and I've noticed this from a lot of at least international students when I talk to them or just see how they interact in school. One thing I really respect is the amount of discipline that a lot of them have, right? And I think it's because of what you were talking about, the reality of how they've grown up versus how like we've grown up. It's way more real. You see the real things in life of what you grew up with there, the struggle, and the hardship. Versus like I've been very fortunate and blessed. I mean, if you were just born in America, you are already above like over 90% of the world. Yeah,
90. Easily.
And it's a sad reality to me that a lot of Americans don't appreciate that. A lot of times, and like nothing ratting on Americans. I mean, enjoy your life or whatever, but it's just sad to me that people don't really understand the reality of other countries and how other people deal with things. And I have a lot of respect for how disciplined and appreciative international people are when they come to America. Because it's something to look at as someone that does have that privilege of being born here. And realize that.
It's and questions like that would make you, I question some of the things in the world as well, like, not even in the world as a whole, just God, like, okay, so, questions like, so does God have favorites, things like that, things that come up in my mind.
Sure.
And obviously I don't have answers to that. But it just makes you wonder, like, are we like all equal in the eyes of God, or we just are God, we select a few and things, but that was a really I when I worked at a camp, there were days where nobody sat at my table, like just everyone's having like a lunch, something, just I would just throw pox of everyone, but no one's at my table. And at first I was like, wow, that must be really crazy, but it's saddening, it's like, wow, these people don't think much of me at all.
I'll sit at your table, Victor.
Dude, you're one of the coolest people I ever met.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, wow, okay. And then like I think they kind of maybe they felt bad about it, and they started to say it, But I didn't. That's the other thing. Right? I didn't like try to go sit with them.
Sure.
Sure.
I didn't. I just kind of stayed them. That's the part of isolation. Sometimes you just know when to like stay back.
Yep.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think like not giving any excuse either, but sometimes, especially in the Midwest where it's gotten better, but like not as much diversity.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I know for myself, like I just don't want to say something wrong or don't exactly know how to, act or engage or whatever. And so then we just give our excuse like, well, I just won't. But we need to get over that like of doing the work to make, the international students feel comfortable or just at home or like we care, to learn about their culture and where they come from.
And to that degree too, it's really interesting because I come from a very diverse place. Atlanta's got a lot of Latin influence, Black influence, and of course just there's tons of people there. There's 6 million people in the metro Atlanta area, right? And of course when I moved here, diversity is way less, right? But it's interesting because Sioux Falls does have a ton of international people, which I found really cool.
Yeah, it is.
But going about your interactions with those people, I have noticed that a lot of Midwesterners, they just don't put themselves out there either to interact with these people. And I mean, it's just a cultural thing that you've grown up with. There's some people that I've met here, which blows my mind, where they tell me they never had even met someone that wasn't white until they were adults. And I was just like,
oh yeah, I don't know if I told any of you the story when I was, when we went to Millbank, and it was like this large hall, and it was like two counselors to like 3 kids, and one of the kids was just like fuzzy, just crying, like I don't want to sit with him. And then the whole all just went silent, like what's going on? And it's like I don't want to sit with him, like he doesn't want to sit with me. And it's like, okay, where do you want to sit? Well, I'll sit anywhere, but not with him. And then so I said, well, okay, who wants to sit with him? And so like a little girl on the other side, this kids were like what, 7, 8, like Maddox's age,
right?
And then so like, the little girl was like, I can sit with him, and then they swapped, But at the time, one of the other my co-counsel was actually laughing about the situation. She was just laughing away, and that really hurt. Like, wow, And then when the kid went over to the next table, he stopped crying. And then when we got back, the director was like, I heard about that. That's really sad. I'm like, yeah, of course, but the counselor made it worse.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So you start thinking about you can't really control, how people would feel or how people would react in certain scenarios. You can only control, how you can like attack
how
it.
you respond.
Yeah, you respond and stuff like that.
Right.
And so and it's probably the growth. It's probably the place where I've grown as well. If that would have happened today, I wouldn't even have read much meaning into it. It's just I don't actually want to read much meaning into it.
Right.
Because, this was just when I first came. So
right.
And Christianity, just knowing that, okay, regardless of what, God is somewhat universal at least. It's like
He created it all.
Yeah, it's got to be universal at least. It's just not gonna be God for this folks and
right.
So
God's for anybody.
Yeah, it's for anybody. And for
He's not the God of America just because. Americans.
That's the part I think that the countries are kind of like held God to themselves. Like, God is for us. I'm not sure about you.
And in fact, when you look at other countries, oftentimes their faith is way greater. Not oftentimes, most of the time.
Most of the time,
their faith is way greater than.
Now I have a little counter for that.
Sure, go ahead.
Now the counter for that is, it's easy, to trust God. Actually, when now people would say it's easy to trust God when everything's going right.
Yeah.
But that's not entirely true.
Right.
It's easy to trust God when everything's going bad, because you're looking for a way out. And so that's what happens with places where I come from, is like they see God as the only way out. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hold on to Him,
Right.
So as opposed to a place where you have everything, and then the question is like, do I really need God?
Yeah, it's easy to trust God.
Yes.
When things are going right, but are you really trusting and
having that relationship?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why
that's a great point.
That's why to your point as well, I feel bad for some other countries, especially Latin American or South American countries, where they've been influenced by more of a Pentecostal approach to things, and you're relying more of that feeling of, you know, the goodness of things going on versus actually having that relationship, because there is actually a lot of prosperity gospel influence in some of these places in third world countries.
And, a lot. I think more than half of them are
right, and that is a sad reality too.
Yeah.
And that's why I do appreciate so many people like my mom who are going and preaching the real gospel to these people. And
that's great.
Right.
That's
great. And I respect her so much for that.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing too, just in thinking about that's kind of, you know, I want to learn more and things, but like I referenced a book that Casey had shared, and I just read it just this past weekend. I read it in like a day. I mean, it was just a quick, great read. It was and the reason I listened to this lady was on a guest on a podcast that Casey had shared, and her name, I listened to it because I saw her name. It was Brittany Salmon, Salmon. I'm like, well, we're almost related, so I got to listen to this. And then it was about adoption too. She has adopted, I think, one young boy, maybe a couple, actually two boys for sure, and then they have twin girls of their own. But she wrote this book, and I'm pretty sure it's called More Than Love, or It Takes More Than Love, just talking about how with adoption, and especially international, transracial adoption, transcultural adoption, you can't just say that, well, we love them, so that's what's going to make everything work. You need to understand them and hear from, they call the triad of the birth parents and the adoptive parents and the adoptee, and hear from all perspectives and learn. And so it was just reading it just with my lens of to come alongside and try and help and be there with Casey and Jimmy, but just thinking about how she talked about in that too, how oftentimes as these white people in America, we have this savior complex where we are the ones that need to go and we need to save these people from, and she talked about how she had gone on a missions trip and taken a picture with a young girl and posted on Facebook, and everybody's like, oh, great job, you know, you're just so good for doing that. And she's like, this girl didn't really need anything. She had a good parents, good family. It was just a girl in the church that I met that I took a picture with, and she's like, it was my fault kind of for posting that and in a way that made it look like I am going to save these people.
Yes, right.
You know, so just thinking about just with international students, like sometimes we think we need to come alongside them because they're not going to be able to make it here in this country without us, or they need us, or these different things. I mean, of course, you would say too that community, everybody needs, no matter where they go. Yeah. But just we don't. It's not our job and duty and responsibility to try and
and to that
be
point,
the savior.
I fully agree with you 100%, and especially, you know, this is why I am big into Bitcoin, because I've studied the U.S. financial system and how it's affected other countries immensely. And you don't realize that living in America, but when you go to these other places and you realize the reality of what we've done, because there's a lot of foreign aid that's given out by places like the IMF, the International Money Fund, and when you do that, when you're just freely given this, well, one, you're inflating supply of money for one thing, but it's causing, I mean, you look at the amount of hyperinflation that's happened in so many other countries, and it's so sad. It's so sad. And like that feeling that we need to help. Sure, I get it if you want to help other places, but they need to become like sustainable for themselves. We don't need to just freely give this stuff and like feel like we have the savior complex. Yeah, right.
Yep. And that's what she talked about too, like just applying this Band-Aid on just giving them right now what they need versus getting them set up for so they can sustain themselves. And and that's a whole tangent. And
like if you like, I know, like if you, but you know, things like that would shape how someone like me would, you know, see the world, and even like where I'm at currently. I remember in about, so like this is 2022, right? So we used to have like a military leader before, and when he was in power, like $1, not even like, let's even go all the way back to like 1978, right? In my country, $1 to the
Naira,
was like 0.73 naira to $1.
Right.
Today it's about 100 folds. Today it's about like 700 naira to $1. Just look at that exponential.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's because you just keep giving those guys money, diaper and plate things,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't, and nothing has really changed. In fact, things have gotten worse from that. From 1970s. In the 60s, we'd have the Saudi royal, the family. They seek medical, care in Nigeria because we had some like the best hospital in Africa. That in the 60s,
Yeah.
they
Right.
come over,
Mm-hmm.
the whole family. That
Mm.
but today it's the other way around. So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This has kind of just shape certain things, certain views,
Mhm.
of how. And one big thing I also want to talk about is how when I came here, the first thing would be, do I identify just as an individual or as part of a group?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I realized that identify as an individual probably worked out better,
Mhm.
and this is somewhat like kind of like a tough one to think about, but if you identify as a group, then you have to like identify with the virtues of the group, whatever they identify with, and that could somewhat hinder certain type of communications. You just coming as an individual, like looking up to God, because I frankly believe that coming here to the United States was in part just just the way God works things out. I would have never imagined being here, telling you guys.
Right.
Because it's funny, if you are like in a third world country, coming to America is like a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like a big deal. Like, oh yeah, he's an abroad. That's how they say. Like,
Yeah.
he's abroad.
Yeah.
It's like you're way up there.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't that much of a big deal for me just because I had like a lot of families that were already there.
Sure.
But for like other people, it's like, whoa, that's a So in that regard, it was a way of God uplifting you too. God uplifts people in different circumstances, but it was a way of God uplifting me too. So coming to the United States, because now by coming to the United States, it means I have a potential like of earning a better income over my entire life. I have a better shot at a better life, things like that.
Sure.
So that was something too.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Good. So we've talked about some of these things already, but just a little bit maybe quick on how you then ended up at West Center, and then just kind of some things that you've encountered in the church, things that you've learned, things you've appreciated, things that you've maybe even noticed that could be done better, things like that in the last, how long has it been that you've been at West Center now? A couple of years? Or not quite?
No,
year and a half maybe?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, because it wasn't too much after you started coming to West Center that you ended up moving in with the Madisonians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we came around the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Great.
What had happened is, so this is a funny. So my sponsor has 5 people under her that she takes care of, and she's not like a rich person, honestly. She's just one person that's just like, I'm just gonna take care of those kids. And so one of the guys is a pharmacist. We're studying pharmacy, and the tuition is like 35 a year, so that's a lot of money. And for them, if they don't like go to school that year, it's gonna have like another year where you have to pay 35. And so it was 4 people now, right? One of the guys that transferred to Michigan, so that year he didn't pay tuition at all, and then we were left with 2. So it was myself and 2 other people. And then I'm like, so where are we gonna get money? Just talking to her, where we're gonna get money and stuff like that. And she's like, I don't know. I really don't have a clue how we're gonna figure this out. And she had enough money like for to pay for the guy, but not for the rest of us, just because he was like a priority at the time. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like take care of that's no problem. So I went to Michigan for a year. So I was like ordinarily I would have graduated so I went to Michigan to stay for a year. And then when I came back, but I was gonna come back to SDSU. But the thing I realized with SDSU is most of the internationals I know that had started like a CS program or like an EE usually had like difficult getting jobs, just because there's no like the entrance skill. Like Austin Brown went to SDSU and talked about this. Like the entrance skill at SDSU is just really poor. Like we never used the Linux system, so they got to DSU. Like it's not a thing. It's just like you use code blocks, for example.
Yep.
So, So I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go like that. It's cool. I heard it's really good. I heard about it before like a year or 2 years back, but I never really took anything into it. And so I was in Michigan for a year from 2019 to 2020. And so when I got back, when things kind of cleared out a little bit, there was like more money on the ground. I came back to just transferred to DSU, and then when I do come from Sioux Falls, and I was looking for like a church, too. I just loved smaller churches. I've played in bigger churches, but there's just something about the community.
More family.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know everybody.
Yeah, it's a
Or
different
most
feeling.
everybody.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different feeling. And then I came over. I just looked up churches, on Google. Like Life something, and that says what center, and I looked up the Vimeo, and what center had like a couple.
Yep.
And I just saw that keyboard on the stage. I'm like, okay, I like that. Yeah. So I came on one of the Sundays, and I met with Bishop, David
Sure.
Bishop.
Yep.
They was like, so after the service was over, he was like, yeah, nice to meet you. I'm like, cool, yeah. He invited me over. He took my number that day. It's like, you want to come over next Sunday to my place? And so I went to his house, like the following Sunday.
Yeah.
And but that day when I came, I heard April play the piano. And that was just amazing.
That's what did it.
That was a sweet try. Yep, that's the place.
Yeah.
And it's funny how sometimes it's something little, like something you just consider like not really important, could be the gateway to something more interesting.
Right.
And so and I used to play at my previous church as well. So participate like in a worship team was something I'd love to do. And so, but I didn't join a worship team until like 5 months or 6 months later.
Right.
So, and it was just this random day. So when then I became a member, went through that process, and I think I'd gotten a message from Justin like, because during the membership class, he told me like if I played whatever, and I said, yeah, I play a little piano, like here and there. Not.
I'm gonna call that a borderline, a borderline lie.
I dabble.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure I could fit in, but I could try.
I mean, granted, hearing April play, if you're comparing to her, I mean, she's also very, very good.
April's really good. April's really good. Maybe we have a different style, but April's really good.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, so they said, okay, sure. And Justin one day, like February, like in 2021, I can text him like, oh, can you make it, like worship this team? Like, yeah, let's see how that works. But you're not gonna play it. You're just gonna like practice with them. Okay, sure. And so I practiced with them, and it wasn't like anything. And I went. I think like 2 weeks later. I kind of played, and I was like, "Whoa, you thought you could play that much?" I was like, "I don't know." I was filled with the Holy Ghost and played away.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And just this thing I really like about just the team. We have a solid team, honestly.
Yes.
We do.
Yeah, with you guys on the drums, and this guys are fantastic, honestly. And yeah, it's easy to think about solo, like just one person, but.
Right.
I've worked with teams a lot, and I know the importance of teams.
Yes,
I agree.
it's everybody.
Yeah, it's the biggest factor.
You can have somebody who's really good at playing, but if the other people don't mesh or aren't good, it takes away from everything.
You need chemistry.
We really do have that.
Yes.
And which through travel leading and
our whole team is good, and not to obviously since you're on the podcast today talking about your
let's boast in the Lord a little bit.
Let's boast in the Lord. Yeah, I just love how you and Bailey, everybody, Trevor, the joy that you all play with. I mean, just watching like on Sunday, this Easter Sunday, just seeing, it's just you are playing because you love playing and worshiping the Lord, not because. I mean, I can see that when you guys were playing, you really don't. The people out there. It's great to hear the voices, but you're playing for God. And you can see that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's another aspect that was interesting when I went to the Methodist church. Not ragging on them or anything, but they asked me when I started playing for them, like if I wanted to be paid, and I was like, no, I do this because it, like, I feel called to do it, and it's something I'm using a gift of that God has given me to, glorify Him.
Just like the people that are in the nursery and the people that are teaching or the video upstairs.
Right.
Everything is equally important, because if you guys have a bomb worship, but Chase isn't up there doing video or whoever, or Anna isn't doing PowerPoint or whatever.
Yes.
Well,
it's a team of everybody that's
if there's not
involved,
people in the nursery that can take the young kids so that the parents can experience the worship, or if there's not,
everything's kind of interconnected.
It's everything. If there's not somebody coming at 7:30 to open the door,
Yeah, and then I met with the Madisonians,
Yep.
And that's a really funny meet because I usually come from Sioux Falls every Sunday, and we're pretty much every day. And then Trevor told me like, oh, would you like if you're like from a place in Madison to stay, would you like? Yeah, I didn't really like really read anything into it. Honestly, I was just like, oh yeah, sure. Because I felt like I knew like more people in 2019 in Madison. And I came during the COVID time. There's like hardly anybody. In fact, when I came back in 2021, I saw a lot of people on campus. I was surprised. I'm like, whoa, look at that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. When I came for the orientation for the international people, for the school, we were 7 people, right, that came for the orientation. Right. And all of them like that were there were actually already in the United States. Like there was nobody that flew in, like say from whatever. Everybody was just transfer student.
Sure.
But the following year, which is 2021, that's August last year, August. There were a lot of them. There were like 20 something of them, and they all like came from all over. The international list then when I came was like 50 something. Now it's like 120.
Oh yeah.
So so I didn't like meet any. I mean, I like in classes like Bicom, but like I rarely met anybody outside the school setting. So it was just tough. And then when I met with the Madarisis on the following Sunday, well, it was Trevor. Trevor said, "Well, we'd have to talk to Benjamin." Dr. Ben.
Dr. Ben Lascano,
Benjamin. You never called him Benjamin before.
Benjamin.
Is like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then he said, yeah, I have a family. Do you mind dog? Like, what kind of dogs?
I remember this.
It's just, let me ask them.
3.
Yeah. It's like, whoa. And in my head, I was like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't grow up with dogs. Dogs are security stuff where I grew up in.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
exactly. So it's not
I got the enjoyment of like, I mean, obviously, I've gotten to know you better because of how close I am with the Madarisan. So I got to hear kind of all of this just secondhand. Just
of course.
From a little bit from both sides.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
And then I met with them the following Sunday, and they're like, yeah, if you want to move right away. I'm like, whoa, okay. And this was the first time I was seeing them. And so to me, that was just awesome, like how there's this Bible verse where like, God, before you were born, I knew you. Before you were made, I knew you. It's just like these people like really didn't. This one like they know of me, but I've never like seen them. So it's like they know me before I was born. So they already like welcomed me before I was like I even like get to meet them at all. And I didn't move until like a month later. But that was just interesting how how somebody I've never met.
What the cool thing about that is at least there's multiple references of that kind of idea, but one of them comes from Psalm 139, which is what me and Lila both shared on her podcast as coincidentally one of our favorite Psalms. And it's a great, and again, they display that just there.
I met I had something similar in Brookings. His name is Howard Woodard. He used to be a professor of agriculture in SGSU. Now he's retired. But just meet him. His wife used to work with internationals too, but she's just like, she died in 2015. Yeah. And a couple weeks into knowing him, he just like gave me the key to his house. Like, you can come whenever you want, So I had the key for like 2 years before he moved out. When he retired, that's like when he was going to sell the house. And so, but that's just like another, I mentioned Howard Woodard. You probably like don't know what that is, but it was like somebody that really, when I was from a church and there.
That's great.
And I just living in the Madarisis was just awesome.
Yeah.
What an awesome
So
experience.
maybe as we're kind of closing up a little bit, just quick to wrap that section up, and then we'll wrap up with just kind of an overall things you've learned. But what is, a takeaway or a couple takeaways, things that you've learned? I'm just curious to hear, just observing, coming in and living with the Madarisis, things that you've seen or learned from them, and just being with them. And
the overall for me would be, I love just simplicity to life. Just that simplistic view of life. It's just, it's just really good. I really like that. I feel they're really simple people. And just the way they've been with the kids. They have an awesome family, honestly. And Jimmy is, weird and funny. And Case is well detailed. Just a good combination of both. Yeah, and they have some kids as well. I've been like hanging out with the kids every week for the past 3 weeks now. Yeah. So, but yeah, that ability to just open your doors to other people, is something. Even the fact that they would go, to go adopt 3 kids, that's a big step. It's a big step.
Yeah.
That tells you much about them.
Yep.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. That's great. It's been fun. Yeah, like I said, getting to know you a little bit just because coming over, to see them or different things and just, kind of seeing that.
And what stories have you heard about me?
That's a story for another podcast. No, good things. Yeah. I mean, I know they've enjoyed having you there. And I think in some ways a blessing for them too, to just have experience a little bit of a different culture before, their kids come home. Not that Haiti and Nigeria have the exact same culture or anything, but just understanding some of those things that you can't learn in a book or on a podcast or anything until you actually have someone there. So, just understanding some of the, I think has been, and I'm sure they would agree that has been a blessing to have you with them as well.
Yeah, like how you guys have the meal, like you guys have probably like dinner like 5:30 or about.
Yeah.
Like when I go to my sponsors place in Michigan, which is, dinner's just like the man likes to eat like 7 p.m.
Yep.
But dinner's just like whenever it's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar in where I grew
up. Oh, really?
Too. Yeah. We sometimes don't eat dinner until like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And that I found really interesting when I moved here. Is like everybody's like 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And part of it depends on they have younger kids too.
Yeah.
Things like that. Because like for me too, like when we're at the farm and stuff, we don't eat until we're done working, which could be late, and that might not even be much. Now lunch is very much always at like 12:30, 1 o'clock in there. Like even at the farm when we're busy working with harvest, it's like we will eat breakfast and lunch for sure. Dinner sometimes gets pushed
I didn't know the word brunch until I got to the United States.
Sure.
Like, right.
Brunch.
It's something that was created in heaven, I think.
Heavenly recipe.
You probably, I don't know how much of a lover of food you are, but living with the Madarisis and Jimmy, especially, I know I've talked about me and Jimmy bond a ton over food. Like that's probably something that has grown, trying different things.
Yeah,
and
Jimmy
lots
is
of
really
food.
Jimmy is really open to like I love it's just the flexibility he has on like trying food and stuff.
Yeah,
food and I think Casey's like the completely opposite. Like I barely see Casey eat at all. Like when do you eat?
That's funny.
Yeah, she has like this little bowl she takes to school. Like your mom's like that.
Yeah, my mom she can eat like one meal for the day and then be fine.
Yeah, I think Casey's like that.
Yeah. It's really
Jimmy
interesting.
is like, oh.
I mean, I
am for it.
I'm similar in that way. Like I sometimes when I worked for my dad, I wouldn't eat lunch until 4:30 or 5, and then I just wouldn't eat dinner. Right. But it's just interesting how there's different aspects to people and their bodies and how they eat.
Right. And sometimes out of necessity, like for me in the summer when I get busy, and the things that I do require light, which is lawn in the summertime, I'm like, I'm going to work until I get done with what I need to or it's dark, and then I will eat because I can't afford to stop for a half hour, and whatever. So, but very cool. Okay, so just what is a thing or two? I'm sure there's tons.
Oh yeah.
But as we kind of close up, that God has really taught you. As you've been here in America, you've been at West Center, you've been with the Madarisis, you've been kind of just in general. I know it's hard to summarize, and even for myself over, the same amount of period of time, it would be hard to summarize, but anything that God, overarching themes that God has really shown and taught himself to you.
Things like, as humans, we're more like similar, and just then we're more similar than we're different, because we all pretty much go through the same like phases in life, and so do not let, I'm talking for me now, like do not like let physical things be a barrier for you, like just because you're like in a different circumstance, a different environment, still like do what you want to do and don't let that, you'd be surprised how good people are. I think like a lot of people in America are actually good people.
Right. Yeah.
People actually good people here. And when you like look at the facts of things like just like net immigration, like the number of people that come here every year, you have more immigrants in America than any other countries in the world, and there's a reason for that. There's something immigrants will tell you that immigrants tend to go to places that are just have better life overall. So it's a blessing, being in America, being a West Center, just being able to meet awesome folks, just have good connections. And also the fact that you can't really tell, what your plan. Sometimes I'm not really be what's in God's plan. But the bigger picture as well would be things like how to grow as a Christian. I really been enjoying Justin's message over the years. Well, over the months, because after 2 years, like a year is still a year. So for the months is a better description of that.
Sure.
And think about it, like I come from a country where you have Muslims and Christians, right?
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered what makes me a Christian. The bigger questions like, is it because I was born in a Christian home? People are like, oh, maybe not. Well, you're one or two cases of people that were like Buddhist and became a Christian, but that's not a lot of people. That's really very few to pull from. And how easy it is to talk to people who are not Christians. Because to some people, they look at that indoctrination. Like, okay, so you have a God, and you want me to believe in your God, right? That's the goal. So what are we working with here? Well, the God has put a Bible out. Well, it's just telling somebody like God loves you, and you're like, who told you that? Well, the Bible says. Well, who wrote the Bible? Well, some folks, Paul and Peter and the gang,
Paul, Peter, and his pals.
Yeah,
the original pals.
Yeah, the original
pontification pals.
how they come about that? They hanged out with Jesus, and so it just keeps spiraling. I feel sometimes that I don't get to really talk about the deep things of my essence as a Christian. I just skim the surface. Oh yeah, I was born in a Christian home. It's easy to, as a child, to just follow your parents' footsteps,
right?
As opposed to get into the world and realizing this is the right path. This is where I am. And there's this little quote I had many years back, and it goes along the lines that it's hard to convince man that a supreme being exists within the context of the laws they operate in. It's hard to tell somebody believe in God because the Bible says so. They want something that is not from the Bible.
That's outside
the context of the Bible, because it feels like bootstrapping,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to so it's easier when you have something outside the Bible first, and then you walk your way in that, as opposed to going from it feels weird, but that's really how I say it, honestly.
Right. I get what you mean.
Yeah. Because I've been preaching to just meet a lot of Hindus, and I was just wondering, what's it like being. And one of the guys that gone to the temple 2 weeks ago, so if you go to the temple, what do you do? Yeah, he's we pray to God. I'm like, so why do you pray to God? Yeah, well, and he was like, I don't really know. I was so do you have a God? He's like, no, we have a lot of God. God for different things.
Right.
Yeah, God for different things. So I was so if you we have to be in a problem, would you pray to God? Would the God do anything? And he was more well, he would pray to God, but he wouldn't expect the God to do anything per se. So it was just more okay, well, God exists and God just exists, as opposed to being in
a relationship with
yeah. So that has been a really big challenge to me. How do I conceptualize this? How do I?
Right.
I don't want to be that. Some of my very really good friends are Muslims as well. My sponsor's husband is a Muslim man.
Yeah.
And so how do you bring someone to the fold? Is it your responsibility, or is that just left for God, and and stuff like that? So those are things I can battle with, internally. I don't really know how to go about this, honestly.
Sure. Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I've learned this studying other world religions too, is when you look at every other religion, Christianity, this is what sets it apart, is it's the only religion that you actually have true grace in, versus everything else, there isn't grace. You have to somehow work or earn for it, right? And I think in a way, being able to articulate that to people in that form is understanding, just what Justin said yesterday, how being a Christian is not about being a good person. It's about admitting you're a bad person. Yeah. And that there's so much beauty and freedom in that.
Yep.
That so many people don't realize.
Right. Well, and the quote that I shared, it wasn't my own thoughts. It was a quote from Lee Strobel that I shared in the call to worship, that Christ didn't come to make bad people good. He came to make dead people alive.
Yes.
Because it says in Ephesians 2, and we're actually going to read a verse, a different theme, but in Ephesians 2 in a little bit. But it says in Ephesians 2 and 1 through 10, how we were dead in our sins and trespasses in which we walked, but God, being rich in mercy, with which he loved us. And me and Chase talked about that on the Easter episode. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so, again, that grace, Beta, that you were talking about, that God showed us that we were dead, which means we couldn't do literally anything to bring about goodness, salvation to ourselves, except come humbly to Christ, knowing that there's nothing we can do, and surrendering to him. And that's something that I think is even Paul, struggled with, is just, he was always growing in how to articulate that and how to speak that grace and truth to others, and something we're always growing in and should be thinking about, and shows our heart to care for others because we want to tell them the truth and the good news. And
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so should we get into
Let's get into
Bible verses?
How foreigners in the faith, we can connect because we are Christ. So you got Ephesians 2?
You got it.
I got
you're
it. I've got
open
it.
to it. I got Hebrews.
Okay, so I'll read the couple verses in Ephesians quick.
Sure.
So just connecting to this culture of Christ, how we can be brothers together because of Christ, how we're looking forward to this one day when we go to our eternal home, our real home, how this is, I've talked about in Sunday school, how this earth is kind of like a vacation, except it's just not probably one we would want to go. Like our home is heaven.
Yeah.
We're just here for a time. So Ephesians 2, I've got two verses, verse 12 and verse 19. Verse 12 says, "Remember at that time, before Christ, you were separated from Christ, alienated from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers to the covenant of promise, having no hope and without God in the world." So at one time we were alienated even to God. We were aliens. We were foreigners to God, foreigners to faith. But then, as we talked about, God, in his rich mercy, he opened our hearts, and we've come to him, and, come home, essentially, to our Father. And then in verse 19, it says, I'll start in verse 18, "Through him we have access in one spirit to the Father. So then you are no longer strangers and aliens, but are fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God," which is just an encouraging promise that we're no longer now foreigners to God, but we have come home and become citizens of heaven.
Right.
And now we're foreigners to this earth, which is what Hebrews talks a little bit about.
Right.
Bailey's going to read.
Yeah, so Hebrews 11:13 goes into saying, "These all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth."
Yeah, so that's kind of the cap of Hebrews 11, the hall of faith.
Yes.
Just thinking about the Old Testament, as we'd say heroes of faith, but just people who trusted in God. They all look forward to this promise, which Philippians 3:20 and 21 really talks about well. It says, "Our citizenship is in heaven, and from it we await a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly bodies to be like his glorious body, by the power that enables him even to subject all things to himself. Therefore, my brothers, whom I love and long for, my joy and my crown, stand firm thus in the Lord, my beloved." I think
So
that's
encouraging.
a great thing to think about and cap with just, Christ is our faith. He is our firm foundation. No matter where we come from, how we've grown up, how we've been raised, we can all look forward to one day in heaven when every tribe, every nation, every tongue will praise him. We'll all, no more confusion about, the different languages, the cultural references, because we're all of one culture, the culture of Christ. And that's amazing.
My favorite Bible verse is,
Good segue, because that's what we're wrapping up our podcast with, Victor, is what is your favorite Bible verse and what does it mean to you?
It's never like verse, it's just a chapter. It's Romans 8.
Good.
Romans 8.
Romans
Man.
8.
I love that.
That's so good.
It's, that, especially like the verse 33.
Let us turn real quick to Romans 8 with you. Yeah.
33, yeah. I really like that.
Read it for us.
Yeah,
Would you?
33, let's just say, let me start from 31, which says, "What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He did not spare his own son, but gave him up all for us. How will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? who will bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? It is God who justifies. Who then is the one who condemns? No one. Christ Jesus, who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? As it is written, for your sake we faced death all along, we are considered sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord.
Look at goosebumps.
I love
brother.
that just downwards.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
What then shall we say to these things?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If God is for us, who can be against us?
Yeah.
And that's a passage that sometimes, people take out of context. Man, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Yeah.
And that's, again, a topic for another day. But if we just meditate on this passage about all those things you listed, Victor, nothing can separate us from the love that is in Christ Jesus for us.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's just amazing because, it's everlasting love.
Oh,
and we're
getting a small piece right now.
We can't even fathom that love. No matter how long you're on this earth, how much you love your wife, your children, your brothers and sisters in Christ, other people, we can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Right. I know that's something I just thought about the other day. Like, I tend to, and as you know me more, I tend to sometimes go overboard with like the, giving the gifts and cards and just different things and, words of appreciation and encouragement, to where sometimes I struggle when I go to write like a birthday card or a message to somebody like the Madisonians or somebody like some of the kids at church that I've known for a while, because I'm like, well, I've used all the words. How can I write something that I want to mean even more, because I've used everything? But just thinking about how much I love you two guys, Chase, Matarisi family, Trevor, like thinking about how much I care for those people, and God loves me infinitely more. Like, I can't even understand that.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my mind around that.
Yeah, there's something else that
It's
I think
amazing.
about too, is like, God, I feel like God is beyond like logic.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can't understand it. I need to
it's
remember
like
that.
Logic and logicality and logicality should be a subset of God. Like, God is beyond the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out
We
of
could
the
just leave it
bounds.
at God is beyond.
And that there's something Justin said, God is for God. It's like, wow, that just struck with me. Just hit me hard, like, wow.
Right.
So, because sometimes, you go through like tribulations and trials, and it's like, how do I come out of this? I remember, for example, like I'm waiting for my, UC.
Yes.
If I look up the stuff now, it's probably like day 150 something, and that's just because I was out of school for a year because of this scenario, not like out of reply, and I've just been buying time since then, literally. And this is like a tough time for me. Like, God, I really need this thing, And but whatever the outcome is, God is just gonna do what He wants to do. And, And that part in the Bible where, the funny thing is, like, I just like read the Bible, but I don't like particularly like know where it is.
Yeah.
It goes back to that thing when I was growing up. We just read the Bible. Just another day. Yeah, and it's like how does it go now? It's like, can the clay say to the maker, this is how I want to be made? Something along those lines. Like, say if you're like molding something, you choose how you want to mold it. The thing you're molding does not get to say on how it should be molded and stuff like that. So sometimes it's like God is just the ultimate, and He chooses how He plans to run things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that segues really good into our last thing before we close the podcast. Is, I know you're going to be leaving soon, and you just mentioned, especially with visa stuff and everything. How can we be praying for you?
Well, apparently God has been doing great things in the past couple of years, so let God's will be done. That's how honestly I see it. There's just so many things that happened in my life in the past 4 or 5 years. I realized this is just God.
Right.
This is.
There's only the only explanation for it.
Yeah, because I also believe in miracles. Because in the Bible, Jesus had to perform a lot of miracles. Sometimes you just need to do something above the natural for people to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it doesn't come often. I mean, Jesus lived 33 years on earth, but he didn't perform a miracle every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I believe the same thing happened in our lives. Like there's just certain instances in our life they're just this got to be the hand of God. And so yeah. So I look at it like that. Yeah.
Because he is so beyond us in every way, but he's also with us. He's a God that has every right to just be distant from us because he's so holy and he can't be in the presence of sin, yet he sent his very son, not only to be among us, but to die for us so that he could redeem a people for himself, so that in Revelation it says that he will be our God and we will be his people and we will see the face of God. That was something Justin talked about that I was just amazed. You think about Moses and you think about all the people they couldn't see the glory of God, and Moses even had a special access to it, but still couldn't. Right. And we will literally get to gaze upon the holy face of God.
We won't even need light.
No. Oh, amazing. We could go on all day.
Oh, yeah, we could.
This has been so good. I've really enjoyed having you on, Victor. Bailey, it was great to co-host with you today.
Thank you for having me on.
We might have to do it again.
Sure. And, if you can't make it, or if Chase can't make it, even me being behind the scenes, I'm thankful for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Well,
Victor, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
We've enjoyed having you. We're thankful for you. We pray that God would not just give you all the desires of your heart as you move on, but that he would lead you, as you said, that his will would be done. And we know it will be. Yeah. And we're confident that as we've come to know you, that you will trust in him and use whatever he gives you for his glory. We're thankful for that. We're excited to continue to keep in touch with you.
Yeah.
And we look for the day when you come back to South Dakota and move here.
Long term. That's the plan.
Yeah. But we've enjoyed having you and getting to know you. We're thankful for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's awesome knowing you guys. Well, God bless you all.
Very good. Well, that's it for today. Join us next time on the Pontification Pals podcast. And remember, love Christ, love others, laugh lots.
I didn't see that part coming.
Bro, that was so good.
I love it.
That was so much fun.
Good job.